what is the worst thing an investor can do in today's market?
I put their money in a saving account, going nowhere with inflation. And so yeah, you put it at least in a money market account, not just sitting in the bank for free. That's just a terrible thing to do. So put it at least as the bank money market. Number one. Number two, not looking for deals, not talking to investors or sellers or buyers and seeing what's out there in the market. So stay tuned to the market, not to the news. Forget the news. They're selling chaos. They're merchants of chaos. Understand that. Take it to your advantage when you're buying. I take the negative news. I go to the seller and say, look, they say it's the end of the world's Armageddon. The whole thing is cooked and the US dollar is never going to be used again. The US is finished. And then they believe it. And then I buy. And when I sell, I show them the realtor's news. It's a wonderful world. The market is just going to recover in just a few months. But what's the reality? Go in the market and look. Puerto Rico is doing very well. California, yes, there is banks going out and all this stuff, but it's not the end of the world. And there's scarcity of inventory. Look in San Francisco, you can find enough inventory. And by the way, just a side comedy here. Look at this from the Federal Reserve for the end of First Republic that got taken over by Chase. I thought that was just pretty darn funny. Somebody put it on social media. That's Powell, by the way, the Federal Reserve chairman. Okay, so yeah, don't put your money in a savings account sitting there for nothing, and don't just watch the news without interacting in the market to see what's really going on in your backyard and in the actual market out there.
All right, we have one last question from Vera and Tony, and then a couple questions that came in late. All right, Vera is also having conversations with us about cracking the code. And so her question to you is, how do you calculate the interest payout in a debt fund?
So cracking the code on real estate funds, we help people set up their own real estate funds. It's a big need right now in the market. So how do you calculate interest payout? I like to we do set up also equity funds, like people that want to pay equity, but I suggest a very specific business model that had worked for me for 14 years very, very well, and those with whom we set up funds for. So that fund is like you're paying people 6 and 8% fixed. You also have a separate class of shares where you can pay something separate if you want to pay an upside of some sort, if you have a project you're building or something. So how do you calculate the interest payout in a debt fund? You have people giving you money in a fund where they are actually, the investors are lenders. So it becomes a debt fund, not an equity fund. They don't participate in an upside. A lot of people just want a specific return and they're happy with that. Those are the people you attract, and there are many of them, especially when you have a fund. So it's not just one asset, you have many assets. So we have, for example, in the fund, in the SFI and the mix of funds that I have, we have properties in San Francisco, we have properties in Puerto Rico, we have properties in Florida, and we do some flips nationwide on the single tenant buildings. So this variation of assets by location, by style of investing, buying, fix, sell, buy, hold, develop from ground up, all this gives us the power of diversification. So when you set up a debt fund, you calculate, can I pay X? If I raise $1 million and I'm paying 8%, that's $80,000 the payment. Am I buying a building that's gonna make, let's say, 110, so I'm gonna pay 80 and I'm gonna keep 30. That's how you calculate the interest payout in a debt fund. If I'm not gonna actually have cash flow, I'm raising $1 million, so I'm putting the $1 million on an asset. I'm putting maybe 700,000, I'm doing 300,000 rehab, and when I'm done, I'm gonna sell it at $1.4 million, and it's gonna take 2 years, so now it's 20% annualized. Okay, so if I'm getting 20% annualized and I'm paying 8, and I have holding cost on the fund because some money sits and all this, costing me 10, you're still coming out okay. You can still pay incentives to the architect, the developers with you, etc., and come out ahead of the game. So the key thing is to calculate what's in, what's out, and how often. Is this, am I buying, selling? Am I buying, holding? And then always have the 4 things in mind that I always say are the best formula. The safety first. Safety first. The return of capital is more important than return on capital. You cannot lose the capital, so put it in real estate, try to deploy it in the right assets. Number 2, cash flow. We gotta have cash flow or big cash outs. That's how you survive the COVID. That's how I survived 2010, 11, 12 when the market was down. I had the cash flows, I had the cash outs. So safety, cash flow, liquidity. Are these easy assets to sell? Are they easy to borrow against? Is it easy to get a credit line? Is it desirable assets? Liquidity is very important. Number 4, reserves. You have to always keep reserves. I keep reserves with the banks for the loans. I keep reserves in the fund. Anybody want to cash out or we need to do some extra work? Like we were doing construction on some property and we do the work, we submit it to the lender, they come, they look and they release so much. Well, the lender got delayed. He told me we're changing banks and whatever excuse they were giving me, something was weird, but it didn't matter, they're pretty big. So I had to fork out $300,000 that was completely unexpected, but I had the cash reserves. Boom. Now they came through and they cashed me out. So make sure safety, cash flow, liquidity, and cash reserves. And number 5, if you are diversified the right way, the way I train you and I show you, if you're setting up a real estate fund, you not only survive in the bad time, but you prosper greatly in great times, and you can become enormously wealthy doing this and help many, many investors with it. My investors have been with me, many of them 12 years, 13 years, 14 years. It's amazing because when you perform and pay, people will come to you. So calculate, what is my interest payout here? What is my project gonna bring? Can I sustain until the project does this and that? Am I diversified enough? Oh, this one is gonna sell and then this one is gonna be finished right after. And then all of a sudden though, everything falls in place and you will know how to proceed and how to grow.